Morning, guys. This is my Model 7 discussion post. And then the question is read the article by Cassidy Kaywood and discuss what you learned. The specific ask two questions based on what you learned from the article. Um, I guess from this article has different dimensions. I guess first, I read it broadly for the discussion post, and I read it more in depth um, for the final exam. Um, when I read it broadly, I guess the article kind of pointed out um, on the first page that there are similarities and differences in mental health between rural and urban or non-rural areas. Um, the similarities are that it's common for both populations to be exposed to drug use, abuse, violence. However, um, there is differences in the access to prevention and treatment services for people in rural areas. There are more limitations. And furthermore, on page 3, Cassidy K would um, identify the difference between availability and access to behavioral health resources in rural communities. Um, I guess basically in rural communities, although you might have those um, resources, I guess those health facilities, mental health facilities may be um, available. However, people may not have access to them because of long wait lists um, and then limited number of staff. Um, and then similarly, I guess the Casticare would provide many statistics that show higher exposure to abuse and violence by rural communities, just to emphasize how much those services are needed. And then I guess one question that I would ask um, is that I guess what model exists out there or what theory that can adequately balance like the financial requirements and needs of the companies, corporations running behavioral and physical health and the actual needs of rural communities. Is it possible to strike that balance? And if so, I guess how? And then furthermore, on page 6, the author Castike would discuss the importance of primary, secondary, and tertiary behavioral health care prevention services. Just basically with this kind of talking about systems theory and using like a holistic person and environment, generally social work approach. Um, they emphasize, I guess Cascade would emphasize that social workers are important in all stages. Um, they describe job of social workers as helping clients understand the holistic approach, their history, and being aware of it and how it affects them and how to take preventive measures. Some of those preventive measures include like seminars, maybe flyers, just general education for people just to prevent um, the onset of a lot of behavioral and mental health issues. And then my question here is what happens in a community with few and far between social workers? Because in previous readings, we've identified that rural communities tend to have less social workers, which um, as Wood talks about, leads to, I guess, that specialization and also daily, I guess, also talks to needing that specialization by social workers to be able to serve multiple issues. Um, I guess, however, there's still a lack of social workers. Um, so therefore, in a community where there's like little presence of social workers, how does it then become like sustainable um, for these communities to access preventative resources with just the minimal presence of social workers? Like, how do we avoid burnout for the social workers that are present, um, that lead to, I guess, how do we prevent that burnout and how do we work around having little to no social workers in rural communities?